And Tessa, let's move to the state level here, because you recently invited all 36 state lawmakers here for a roundtable on teen violence.
We did. Invited all 36. You're going to see how many showed up. We showed them the very concerning statistics involving teen violence here in the metro that these young women helped find in all of our teen reports. Now it's time, though, to figure out if these lawmakers who represent us actually have a plan to tackle this teen problem. What solutions do our lawmakers have for the concerns about our juvenile justice system? One question I had came out of Megan Abundis's ABQ Forward Team report, where she looked at what happens to teens once they have been sentenced to a state facility. How many of you were confidently ready to make life-changing decisions at 14 years old? The reason I ask you that is because our age of consent comes up. At 14, a lot of what is there for them is recommended. It's not mandatory.
I really question the approach that people take in asking them to participate in something. If you just ask a kid, you want to go to therapy? No. But there ought to be skilled individuals, particularly when you know that's the issue you're dealing with, is traumatized. And kids with disabilities and or behavioral health issues, to know how to approach them, to incentivize and talk them into doing that. A bill that I'm considering, it may not happen this session, but is to actually require trauma-informed continuing education for all medical and behavioral health licensed professionals, to require trauma-informed care training in their continuing education.
Representative Bill Rehm says it's a problem that extends beyond juvenile justice.
I was looking at the trades program, and Representative Maestas and I are actually working on this, but I'm upset with corrections. Well, our good time allows you to sit on your butt and get the same amount if you go and learn something. So working with corrections, I said I want to amend it where, okay, you get good time for good behavior, but you get accelerated good time if you want to learn a trade. And as recently as 2 weeks ago, I called corrections and I said, okay, where's the input? Because you guys are going to help us write this correctly. And still they haven't responded.
I think incentivizing. Whether it be for a good time, whether it be somebody making a connection with that child, making them see how it can be helpful, making it family therapy if that's where the issue is. If dad has abused the kid, make it family therapy, because forcing people to do things they don't want to do is only going to make them crankier or worse. So I think we need to figure out a way to incentivize them. Okay, you can get your GED, or and there's a job waiting for you afterwards.
But what about intervening before those kids even get into the system? I presented our lawmakers with information Brittany Costello revealed in her ABQ Forward Team report. Police say they feel handcuffed to hold kids accountable for minor crimes because whether or not a teen will be detained depends on a point system overseen by the state's Juvenile Probation and Parole Division. So what solutions do lawmakers have to help police connect with teens who are getting into trouble?
If a young person can meet a police on a basketball court, talking out in front of a 7-Eleven, then they're less likely to, down the road, commit a crime. So we really need to support our law enforcement with the kind of tools. This is something that we're all concerned about with our capital outlay money, so that they can spend more time doing the work of community policing.
Our systems need to communicate with one another. So, you have the Department of Health, you have criminal justice, you have early ed and PED, or, public schools. So we're going to put legislation this year that hopefully will come to fruition next year, a family laboratory database in which they communicate with one another and they track people without violating people's privacy rights.
One potential solution every single lawmaker at this discussion supports is an increase in behavioral health services. In 2013, former Governor Susana Martinez froze Medicaid payments to more than a dozen behavioral health nonprofits, citing fraud concerns. And lawmakers claim the state has never recovered.
Families and individuals who needed assistance through behavioral health programs suddenly were cut off, because you can't just change a therapist for people. One of the things that's happened now is that a number of the youngsters who were young at the point in time when that occurred, they're now growing into being teenagers, and we're seeing the result, I think, at least in part, of the fact that services suddenly went dark.
We have to get back to really solid behavioral health, substance abuse, family support services, and intervention early with families and kids, and try and decrease the trauma and the trend and the parenting that's been as a result of that substance abuse and low economic status, homelessness, people floating around with no place to live. I think it's just all compounded.
If you go to KOB.com right now, folks, we have posted a list of the lawmakers asked to attend who neither sent a statement nor showed up to our discussion. We also have all of the statements that lawmakers sent to us if they couldn't come to the discussion. Go to KOB.com again, click ABQ Forward under our news tab.
So you saw the lawmakers who were there. We had, as you said, some sent in statements.
Yeah.
The lawmakers who showed up, it sounds like they had some thoughts on what we could do, but nothing concrete.
A lot of suggestions. You heard in there, a lot of it is focused on community policing. How can we get teens who may be going down a bad path and police officers to be more comfortable with one another so that we intervene before they ever get to the point where they're becoming one of those really discouraging statistics. I will tell you, though, it seemed to me as the more I revealed to these lawmakers, they were surprised by some things. The fact that 14 is the age of consent in our state, that at 14 these kids can say, I don't think I want to go to therapy. The problem with this session, as we know, it's a budget session, it's a 30-day session. Anything that is introduced right now has to be on the governor's call. So we are going into it knowing a lot of what we revealed here is probably going to have to wait for the 60-day session next year, but at least we've revealed it. We're going to stay on them and see where we go from here in all of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're not done with this ABQ Forward series. Next week, the theme turns to pre-trial detention. Chris Ramirez, Kai Porter, Ryan Laughlin, they're all going to take a deep dive into these three angles: courts, law enforcement, and state lawmakers.
So those are going to begin Monday for you. In the meantime, if you would like to watch our previous reports about teen violence, about the crime drivers with this crisis, head to KOB.com. Again, click on that ABQ Forward tab under the news drop-down menu.